Hey everyone, I'm Angeline Constantinou, and this is Her Unapologetic Voice. This podcast was created for women who lead but are done leading from apology. Here we have real, unfiltered conversations about boundaries, truth, and confidence. The kind of talks that remind you your voice is not something you find once, it's something you build. Every episode will give you something real to take with you, whether it's a boundary script, a reflection tool, or simply the courage to say what you really mean. So if you're ready to lead from your truth, not from approval, this is your space. Your unapologetic voice starts here. Where clients save an average of $45 to $70K in legal fees, 8 to 22 months in court, and a ton of heartache and bad decisions. So her mission is clear: to provide invaluable education, guidance, and empower individuals going through long-term, high-asset, high-conflict divorces, navigating narcissistic abuse, and recovering from the deep wounds of divorce trauma. And she is a best-selling Better Divorce Blueprint workbook and online course to gain clarity and practical tools. So find inspiration and insights from the No Matter What card deck and tune into her empowering Better Divorce podcast. So Paulette draws on her extensive experience as an ADR credentialed private mediator, certified divorce coach, certified divorce specialist, and certified amicable divorce professional to help clients stay in control, avoid unnecessary court procedures, maintain dignity, and assemble just the right team of professionals. So Paulette offers comprehensive support, guidance, and coaching throughout the entire divorce process, from confusion to conclusion. Through Better Divorce Academy and her authored works, she reaches and supports a wide range of individuals facing divorce. Paulette's proven strategies, compassion, and unwavering dedication to empowering her clients are revolutionizing mediation and the divorce coaching industry. So today we're going to be talking about breaking free from high conflict divorce, what women need to know. And without further ado, Paulette, here you are. Good afternoon.
Hi, thank you so much for that. It's an honor to be here.
Well, it's an honor for you to be here on my Her Unapologetic Voice podcast, because this is going to be a real and raw conversation today. So before we get into our topic, what I always ask all my guests, what time is it where you are?
Oh my goodness, it is 2:41 p.m. in the afternoon.
East Coast. I'm in the East Coast
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Well, I'm very
Well, I'm
happy.
in Atlanta, which isn't really the coast.
Yeah.
It's, I think, the most west EST there is, so which is surprising. I always kind of thought it should be central, but I'm still East Coast, so yeah.
Still East Coast. I'm so happy you're East Coast because I'm in Stuart, Florida. So yeah, I've been to Atlanta a couple of times. So I'll have to make a trip and come up and visit. Let's get into our topic. First of all, what inspired you to start Better Divorce Academy? Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you had this passion and vision to start your Better Divorce Academy.
Well, I'll be very honest. I had absolutely no intention of doing this work. None. I was not that little girl that said, I want to go to law school. I want to be an expert in divorce, relationships, marriage. Nope. I wanted to be Jane Pauley. I went to school for journalism, media, TV, and radio. Worked in that field for a bit. I ran, co-directed and choreographed and taught dance and performing arts for 20 years. I was a birth doula, a lactation consultant, a yoga teacher trainer, a macrobiotic cook, an Ayurvedic consultant. I did a lot of things and hung out with a lot of women, thousands of them, no exaggeration, over the years. But I got married really young. I was 17 when we met, 22, turning 23 when we got married. And everything seemed fine. It was on my list of things to do. Graduate from high school, go to college, fall in love, get engaged, get married, have babies. Isn't that on our list of everything we're supposed
Right,
to do?
exactly. Get a job and all this
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. Check, check. And I realized, like, oh my, what did I do? There was that song by Talking Heads called Once in a Lifetime. And
Mm.
as I was getting out of my minivan, crossing the street to get the mail, that song came out on the radio. And, I don't know if anyone else can relate, but when you get the mail, you keep the doors open and the car is blaring. And I heard the song. And as I was crossing the street, because the mailbox was across the street, I looked left and right. That song was on, and I heard David Byrne, who's the lead singer of Talking Heads. He doesn't sing, he talks, and he says, "This isn't my beautiful house. This isn't my beautiful wife. How did I get here?" And of course, I don't know, look up the lyrics, it'll make you
I
cry.
will. I'll look it up.
Yeah. And I looked at the house and I said, yeah, how did I get here? And I was, I don't know, 30 years old and had a big house and a big life and a lot of kids and I never really consciously made any decisions. I just allowed everyone else to make my decisions for me because if
Right.
it didn't work out, then I wouldn't be to blame. It was just easier and kind of growing up codependent with that kind of lifestyle, didn't want to make waves and was very indirect and kind of put my lipstick on and put on my happy face. And I
Uh-huh.
grew up in a dance studio. So, what are the sayings that we all learn? If anyone's a dancer, you should, remember these: break a leg, the
Oh, yeah.
show must go on, never let them see you sweat, all those little be a trooper attitudes.
Exactly.
And I was told it's not that bad. I mean, and it wasn't like abusive or anything. Like I wasn't the battered wife, but it was just very controlling and compartmentalizing. I felt silenced. I wasn't really able to find my voice. I was horrible at communicating. I was just a people pleaser. Yes, 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 yes. I rarely said no until I was in the car and I would curse. Like, why did I just say no, yes to that? Why did I agree to that?
Right. We're not conscious of it, right?
I
I
had a
mean,
job I hated. I never consciously wanted the job. I always just felt trapped, stuck. I know a lot of women can identify with that, and I've helped thousands of them through it. So that was young, is so as I got older, and of course had child one and child two and child three, and the big life and the big job and the big house, and it's just that song kept playing in my heart. And then I heard REO Speedwagon's song "Time to Say Goodbye." I've been around for you, and I can't sing, but you know that song. And
right.
the tears poured, and I just said, wow, what am I doing? So I finally gathered the courage and I spent probably a year in the bookstore reading every book on marriage
Mhm.
and relationships and divorce because we didn't have the internet back then. Or we did, but it wasn't what we have now.
Exactly. We have so many resources.
Yeah. It was like you had to get a phone number and
I know. Sounds like me 17 years ago when I went to the public library
it
to
was
do
more
research.
stressful than it was worth to even use. So yeah, but didn't have cell phones. We had these phones we had to stick on the dashboard.
Uh,
So anyway, I went to the library or the bookstore. We didn't have ChatGPT. We didn't have Google. We didn't have the internet. So we went to bookstores and we read and I did copious notes, read. I'm a constant learner. So I read everything until I found Mira Kirschenbaum's book. She is a clinical psychologist in
yes.
Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts. And I grew up in Needham, Massachusetts. So I was lucky enough to have met her and learned from her. But her book that really hit me hard was Too Good to Leave, Too Bad to Stay. And
Oh.
the title, my dear, I had all these people talking to me, these messages. And then, it was like Alanis Morissette's album came out. All of those songs were just coming out. And I was a dance teacher, so I was choreographing to all this music that was like angry rock in the 90s came out. I don't know if you remember that. Like all the music was really angry rock, Lincoln
Right.
Creed, all the music was just like, and then Eminem's song came out, Lose Yourself.
Yes.
You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow because opportunity comes but once in a lifetime. And I thought, okay, so I've got David Byrne singing once in a lifetime. And now this guy's screaming at me once in a lifetime. And by the way, these songs came out 30 years apart. So I thought, okay, the universe is calling. So I finally filed for divorce. And it was not pretty. I will spare you the 7 hours of how that all came to be. We'll have to do another episode. But once I
Definitely.
did make that decision, which did not come lightly, and I took about 10 years to contemplate divorce, how it would affect me, how it would affect my husband, the
Mhm.
family, and the family, because I married into a very large family. And of course, number one, the children. And it was not I didn't do enough research on the legal process. I did it more on like fixing the relationship and trying to be nice and amicable and being friendly and wearing the smile and trying to be Barbie and Ken. That was my whole life. I looked like Barbie, he looked like Ken. My wedding dress was pink and I was just playing the part. And it
Right.
didn't work that way. I unfortunately went through an 8.5 year fully litigated divorce case that included a 12-day trial that took place over 9 months and 2 years of preparation to even get to that point with all the normal, boring interrogatories and discovery, sua sponte orders, subpoenas, just
Hmm.
depositions, confidentiality agreements, you name it. If it existed in divorce, we had it. And then once the judge came back with his decision, which took an additional 9 months, my ex did not like the judge's decision. So it was appealed on 17 counts, which went an additional 4 years in state Supreme Appellate Court and the threat of further appellant review. So for about a decade, my life was monopolized by the legal judicial system. And good news travels fast, but bad news travels faster,
Oh,
right?
I agree.
So I got letters, my doorbell rang, my phone rang. I got messages at the beginning of, I remember AOL instant messaging.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and I got messages from basically those thousands of women that I had known. Are you okay? Why is this taking so long? I thought he was a decent guy. I don't understand. How are you getting through this? But I'm telling you, ladies, it would always end up with, can you help me? And it
Wow.
would eat away at my soul. And at first I would say, no, I can barely help myself, let alone anyone else. But it kept happening time and time again. So eventually I reached out to my attorney and I said, hey, all these people are reaching out to me for help. What should I do? Should I go to law school? And he said, Paulette, and his very thick Boston accent. I'm from Boston originally. His name is Martin Kane. So it's Marty. And I said, should I go to law school? I don't know what to do. I want to help all these people to do. And he said, you have been a credible client, an asset to the firm. You've been copious notes. You have been diligent. You think like a judge, you act like a lawyer, but you feel like a therapist and you really owe it to give back. Have you considered, maybe you should be a mediator? And I was like, what? Or you should be a divorce coach. And I was like, yeah, why don't I have one? Chris had kind of was coming to a conclusion with the appeals court. But at that point, I said, I've got to do some more research. So I watched a documentary called Divorce Corp, and I
Mm.
learned that divorce is a 50, probably more 70 billion-dollar industry. It's a documentary. I highly recommend everyone watch it. It teaches you about the divorce industrial complex, and the divorce is basically a business. And it just ate a hole in me that basically families were destroyed or could be destroyed because of the, legal system. And I'm not pointing fingers or calling names. It is what it is. We have a judicial system for a reason. There are many reasons that people need to go to court for an answer.
Mhm.
Good news is that only 3% of cases go to trial. 97% of divorce does not go to trial, like mine. That's pretty good.
Uh, wow, that's a high
So,
number.
right, 97% does not go to trial, but 3% does. And of the 3% that do go to trial, only 1% of that 3% goes to appeals court. And unfortunately, that was me. I am the 0.001%.
Oh, geez,
And
wow.
73% of divorces initiated or filed by women.
Yes, we had
And
talked about that. Yeah. Why such a high number? I'm
well,
just
men
curious.
are men would rather just be status quo. It's not that bad. I'll just go play golf. She's going through menopause. I'll just stay busy. I'll have an affair. I'll just look the other way. I'll just call her a bitch. Whatever they need to do. They don't want their life to change. The house is clean. The dishes are done. She's working or not working. She's contributing on some level. I like my life the way it is. Sure, it'd be great if she'd X, Y, and Z, give me more sex or be more whatever. But for the most part, they like their life the way it is. Women have higher standards. Women don't want to just accept mediocrity, and they certainly don't want to accept one of the 7 types of abuse, or dare I say, all 7 types:
Yeah.
psychological, mental, emotional, physical, sexual, and financial and spiritual. Women are not interested in accepting mediocrity. They want a real collaboration. They want a connection. They
Mhm.
want a relationship, one that's built on congruent goals and aspirations, visions, hopes, dreams, versus just like, it's okay. We don't want vanilla ice cream. We want Oreo or Rocky Road or,
Yeah, no, there you go.
we want something with pizzazz or flavor.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying all women. Anyway, but I'm not saying all women are like that, but a majority of women really are not anymore willing to settle. They want a real deep, authentic, transparent, respectful, fun, playful, enjoyable marriage. It's hard enough to raise kids. It's hard enough to go through pregnancy and labor and delivery.
Exactly.
And then you've got to raise these little drooling, throwing up, and wonderful love balls of love. And you're saying to yourself, like, now what? So I see a lot of women raising their standards. They're not willing to accept unacceptable behavior. So men are a little bit, for the most part, willing to kind of tolerate it. But women are not. So again, 73% of divorce is initiated or filed by women.
Right.
And as you know, 2 years is the average amount of time that those women internally contemplate divorce before they
Right.
tell anyone.
And what is that reason?
No.
Is it because they're researching? Is it
Yes, exactly. They're in the library, they're at the bookstore, they're on ChatGPT, they're Googling, they're asking experts, DMs on little Facebook chats. Hey, I've got a friend who's thinking. They're doing their research about it, or they're noticing. And also divorce is a little bit contagious. When a woman finds that she has a friend or a coworker or a relative that divorces successfully, usually when the woman sees that woman thriving on the other side, she goes, I want that too.
right? Because she feels that she can thrive on the other side.
If she feels that someone else can succeed and do it, well, there's the proof. And I want to follow by that example. Now, if she sees them fail, that could definitely scare them. And again,
Right.
I'm not pro divorce. I am not that professional that runs around giving out my business cards to people and saying, "You look really miserable. Are you?"
Yeah, that would not be
But I'll tell you, been there a few times I've been out to dinner with my husband, and I'm happily remarried 8 years. And he's leaned over to me and whispered in my ear, I think they need your card.
really.
Because you can see them like they've turned their back to each other. They're on their phones. They're not making eye contact.
They're not
Um,
communicating.
they're not communicating. Yeah, they're going through the motions, right? And that's so sad. So of course that's from his point of view, but he's kind of coy when he does it. He's like, I think they need your card. I know it is funny when we go to like events, because I go to a lot of events and for my husband too, and he'll introduce me to people. And naturally, what happens? People say, "And Paulette, what do you do?" And I go,
What?
"Oh, here we go, everybody.
Oh no.
Here we go." I usually, tell them I'm a credentialed private family mediator specializing in ADR,
Okay.
alternative dispute resolution, and a certified high conflict divorce coach. And they go, "Oh." And I
Whoa,
give them, like,
whoa.
my card, and, they usually go, "Oh, no, no, and I said, "It's a great April Fool's joke, put it on the refrigerator or the coffee table." It's a great way to kind of spark a little conversation. I'm just kidding, ladies. Actually, I'm not, though people have done that. But yeah, so that's how I found myself in this. And because of the 8 years that I spent in litigation, notebook after notebook after notebook
Mhm.
of notes. And I witnessed over 272 divorces in court. And I didn't write down any names or details, but I
Right.
took notes of what people did well, what people didn't do well. And I put it together and it ended up becoming, of course, with all my training in wellness and mindfulness, into Better Divorce Blueprint. Chapters 1, 2, and 3 are before, 4,
Mhm.
5, and 6 are during, and 7 and 8 are after. And it ended up becoming a book, a workbook journal, an audiobook, and an online course
Uh-huh.
for those people that really just want to buy the book, whether it be on Amazon or you just buy the book, or you're going to listen to the audiobook with your little ear pods. Nobody has to know what you're
Right.
listening to in the phone, in the car when you're driving the kids to school, right? Nobody has to know what's on your little Kindle or your phone. So
Exactly.
you're going to do the self-paced online course and do it at your own pace. And it also helps people that are in the early stages, not ready to commit, and also don't want to spend the money or can't spend the money on one-on-one coaching. It's
Mhm.
given me a tool and another way to help more people. My goal is to make sure that every woman who wants a divorce can do it with wisdom and grace and dignity. That's one of the reasons I also became a birth doula. I wanted to make sure that every woman had the opportunity to not birth scared. I wanted them to feel that they had the support. My 3 births were, very different, but I was very scared. And it's one of the reason I became a birth doula. And it's one of the reasons I do the work now is to give
Okay.
women, although about 40% of my clients are men now, naturally in mediation, 50% of husband, wife, although we should say spouse A and spouse B now, not everyone is husband and wife. But either side. And then the other half are coaching clients. So whether
Okay.
I'm helping couples in mediation or individuals um, in coaching, I'm there to help them from confusion to conclusion every step of the way.
Because that process is, like I said, confusing in the beginning. Very.
Overwhelming, stressful, fearful. We don't know what we don't know. And there's so much to take into consideration. Your thought process, feeling your feelings, deciding what you really want. What is that? Being responsible for yourself and taking ownership for the part that you
Exactly.
played in the demise of your relationship and knowing all the deal breakers, and there are 38, understanding them. There are 21 main reasons couples divorce. And if you have 2 of them, that would be called therapy. Go to couples counseling, try to
Right.
work them out. But if you have 10 or 12, or dare I say all 21, you're definitely going to need me. And then
Oh, absolutely.
feeling your feelings, really, there's a reason the word feel is in feelings. What are you truly feeling and experiencing? And then, of course, your thought process. So understanding both of them and then understanding how to prepare and protect yourself. You can't have too much information, gathering all your facts, being organized, doing your due diligence, honoring your values, learning how to tell the children what to say, what not to say,
Right.
and how to decide what's right for you. There are 5 methods of divorce and only 4 things the courts care about. And breaking down the methods of how to end divorce, knowing which one is best for you, how long they take, how much they cost, all
Right.
the steps to them, really getting it down to a science so you can pull out the emotion and just get the facts. And then the hard part is mitigating those outside influences. What your neighbors think, your sister think, your mother thinks, your friends think, your
Right.
husband thinks, really getting clear on what you need and mitigating all those outside influences. It's very difficult. And practicing mindfulness, making conscious, wise choices, and really taking control of your future. Ignorance is not bliss. You've got to gather your evidence, gather your facts, have
Right.
a budget, understand the lawyers speak, and learn to choose all those advocates that you need. Get organized, have the right planner and calendar and journal, and moving through it, also dealing with all the stress. It's not easy. Um, I took what I learned and
Right.
all those other cases and realized that as a credentialed private mediator, I can help couples avoid court, save all unnecessary legal fees, keep their private life private, divorce swiftly. Usually my process about 90 days without
Mhm.
any trauma or drama. Now, that's not to say that there isn't emotion and fear and upset, but if you can just keep it dissipated, it is an optimal outcome instead of a nightmare.
Well, that's good. So you help them navigate through that process. Now, I want to talk about women who are in a narcissistic relationship.
Yes.
So what do they need to do to plan?
Very
Or
good question. I'm not a clinical psychologist, so I do not diagnose clients. But
okay.
when I listen to clients
Mm,
tell me about their spouses and they give me the evidence, it's pretty clear that they've fallen into a category of what I like to call antagonistic spouses. Whether you want to call them a pain in the part of your body. I know this is
get
an
it.
unapologetic voice, but we do
Right.
those PIA people, just a
Oh
pain in
yeah.
the tail, right? They're just my way or the highway. It boils down to the 3 E's. So you want to ask yourself, does my spouse, because it's a little bit of a litmus test, right? An assessment of,
Yep.
is my spouse truly antagonistic, narcissistic, histrionic, borderline, antisocial? Again, we're not diagnosing and you shouldn't. But, if it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck and it's yellow like a duck and it quacks like a duck, well, it might be a duck.
It might be a dog.
Yeah. So, first of all, for the first E is lack of empathy. Do
Mm.
they display a complete and total lack of empathy? Which basically means they only care about me. Me, 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 me. They really don't care about anyone else's feelings, thoughts, experiences. It's just about what I want and what I want and what I want. It's also about image. They want to make sure that everyone still thinks that they are a fabulous, phenomenal member of society in person. If the mask falls out and the true self gets revealed,
Right.
they get angry. So you're not saying to them, "Are you getting angry?" You're just making little notes in your head, right? So play a lack of empathy, mostly because they're fearful about what people think about them.
Right.
Number two is entitlement. So,
Mm.
do they feel entitled? So, what that means is they know that there are rules, but the rules don't apply to them. Meaning, there are rules out there in society, like speed limits. So, when you drive down the highway, and it says 55 or 65 or 75 wherever you live. I mean, a normal, healthy person looks at the sign and goes, those rules aren't for me. Those are for the losers in the world.
Right,
Right?
exactly.
Those are for the suckers and the other people, the peons. They don't say that, but it's that thought. So there's this
That
sense
thought
of
process.
entitlement. The rules don't apply to me, or the laws don't apply to me. And let's just
Uh,
face it, what is divorce?
what
It's
is
a legal
divorce?
process, right? Right. Marriage is a legal binding contract. And the only way to end that legal binding contract is to enter in yet another legal binding contract known as divorce. We don't realize it, but when we get married, it's a legal binding contract,
Right.
right? So the law says, ba, 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 and these type of people know that there are rules and laws and guidelines, but they don't apply to them. They don't
Uh,
have to follow the rules. Yeah.
they don't have to follow the rules.
They don't have to follow the rules. Why? They just because they're special. They're different. They don't discovery, hearings, child support.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, fill out this paperwork.
Oh,
That's for stupid people. I don't have to do any of that. No, they don't say any of that, but they feel annoyed. They feel bothered, burdened
mm,
by having
right.
to comply with the rules.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
if you see that somebody does not like to follow the rules, you're probably checking that little box, right? Number
I do.
three is exploitation. So what that means is these type of people like to use or utilize people and places and things and systems to benefit them, which is divorce.
Right.
Divorce is a system, a legal system, right? So they try to use the system to benefit them. They feel entitled to want what they want and do what they want and say what they want and buy what they want and think what they want and all that stuff. And they really don't give a flying you know what about anybody but what they want.
Exactly.
So this is what you really need to do as far as diagnosing. Now, if you see those behaviors, document it.
I was
Email,
gonna talk about that. That's what I
journal it, and you have to do it in a historical timeline from the day you met to today.
okay.
Chronological order. Why? Because the court is looking for patterns of behavior. You cannot get an award of adjustment because of one incident. Well, let me just reword that. You
Okay.
likely can't get an award of one incident unless it's murder or something. Like it has to be really egregious behavior. But the court is looking for a historical timeline of
Mm,
patterns of behavior.
I see.
Right? Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Right. That makes sense because I was journaling. And for me, for my divorce, I journaled every single day incidents.
I'm so
That's
proud of
exactly,
you.
yeah, see?
Right. Now, a lot of people don't know to do that. Now, you can't just hand the journal to a judge. Oh, you can, but I probably wouldn't advise it. But the thing to do
Hmm.
is to either get a big whiteboard. I have a
Okay.
6 by 4 foot one in my office here. I turn the camera around and I do a little timeline. Think of it as like if you were learning European history
Wow.
in high school, and you'd start with the Byzantine era or something. I'm not an
Right.
AD, way, and then the very first dot. And you'd write down the era, and then you do a little line and another dot, and then you go to the next era, right? And all the way until it's 2025. And it could be American history. Let's do American history. So we've got the pilgrims come, Jamestown was first, right? And then pilgrims and all the way to now. So you have to do the same thing for your marriage.
There
So
you
you have to
go.
create a historical, why I'm giving you history, a timeline of your marriage. when you met, where were you, who was there, what did you do? And then you go through the dating process and the engagement and the marriage and where you lived and what you do and what they were doing and the patterns of he asked me to this but didn't show. And then we had the first baby and then we moved here and then all the way to and then
Oh,
and then
wow.
you look back at it and you start to remember all of those little incidents when you weren't allowed to look at the taxes or you were told to not ask questions.
Right.
Whatever the incidents were. And you, because what happens to our memory is it's just a little here and a little there and it's all disjointed. And remember when this, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not chronological. So you are not a credible witness because you're like spaghetti at the wall. You have to
Exactly.
not be spaghetti. You have to be uncooked spaghetti in the box, you know, lined up nice and neat, not just blah, right? So if you walk into court with a color coded, visual, laminated display of your marriage in a timeline, you are so credible, particularly if you can back it up with texts, emails, phone calls.
Exactly.
And then you have exhibits to show each one. Do you know how much money I just saved you in legal fees? If you do that, thousands of dollars.
Thousands of dollars. Absolutely.
Thousands. So before you do that, I can spend with my clients maybe 2 or 3 hours, turn around my camera, do it show it right there. So my little whiteboard right there. It's very big.
I love it. I love it. See?
And there's my little chair. If you live local, you come sit in my little chair.
Oh, I love
And
that.
we map out your entire marriage so that you are number one, credible. Number two, believable. And most important is likable.
There you go. That I agree.
And it really, demeanor has a lot to do with how the judges perceive you. If you go in with a chip on your shoulder, arrogant, selfish, disrespectful, kind of know it all, the judge will usually be like, she's a piece of work or he's a piece of work.
Or
Don't need to
oh,
pick on. You know, if you go in really with your I's dotted and your T's crossed, the judge is going to want to hear your story.
mhm.
Now, if you can mediate and avoid litigation and you still have your historical timeline in your hand, you're not going to get emotional because you have the facts in front of you. Where they say, I never did that. We never went there. That never happened. I never bought that. You're like, yes, on January 3rd, 19, whatever, you bought a, whatever. You have it all right there. So
Sure.
it really helps with, but the overall guidance, if anyone wants to get something really substantial from this conversation you and I are having,
Mm.
but the keys to a successful divorce with these type of difficult people is twofold. Number one, you have to have radical acceptance of who they are. Meaning you have to accept that your partner may never change.
Yes.
That allows you to stop clinging to the unrealistic hope that they may, in fact, be someone different or change.
Mhm.
It's just a bad day. They only did it once. They promised this. There's a lot of future faking. And if you haven't listened to Dr. Ramani's 38 videos on glossary of narcissistic relationships, I
Wow.
highly recommend everyone do that. And of course, read not Dr. Melody Beattie's book, Beattie, book called Codependent No More.
Yes.
Read the book. So you really have to give up clinging to hope that they're
Very
good.
good. Because they all feel they're going to change.
They don't. Remember, we talked about if it's a duck and it looks like a duck.
Right.
If they're showing you who they truly are, believe them and let go.
That's right.
And number two, you have to have realistic expectations. Each divorce is unique, but you've got to understand the divorce process. Mediation looks like this. Litigation looks like that. There are 5 methods of divorce: DIY, 3 forms of mediation, collaboration, arbitration, and litigation. There's also amicable, but it's kind of part of the mediation centered divorce. But for the most part, those are your methods. You've got to pick the right one, have realistic expectations of what is the process? How is it conducted? Who is there? Who are the players? What does it cost? How long does it take? Really understanding each and every aspect. And then what are the topics that the courts care about? Number one, legal and physical custody. So
Right.
the number 1A is legal custody, which is decision making. Who makes the best interest decision making of the minor children? Now, in most courts and most aspects, most courts are looking for parents to share that responsibility. kind of like you do when you bring the baby home from the hospital.
There you
You're
go.
parenting. But we now shift from parenting to co-parenting. But sometimes what happens with narcissistic spouses is
Mhm.
we shift into parallel parenting or even worse, counter parenting. I'm happy to talk to you about that, but there are these gradients of parenting, co-parenting, parallel, and they get more and more separated. So if you're aware of these type of dichotomies and nuances of the parenting dynamic in divorce, you have to have a realistic expectation. How is it going to be to co-parent with this person? Who's making decisions and where are they sleeping? What's your work schedule? What their work
Mhm.
schedule? How are you going to share that responsibility? Is it 50-50? Is it 60-40? Is it 90-10? What's the schedule? Is it 2-2-5-5? 2-2-3 every other week?
Right. There you go.
Realistic expectations. Most judges in most cases are looking for parents to share time. That's
For sure.
just a fact. And if you can't do that, you have to have a reason for it. And that's where the attorney comes in to explain and build your case with a pattern of behavior as to why you believe that you should be or not be awarded 50-50 or primary joint
Right.
custody of the children. Now, with that, then you move into child support. What does that look like? Gross monthly
Mhm.
income of A, gross monthly income of B, and then who's paying the children's portion of the health insurance? What is the pro rata share? Is A paying B? Is B paying A? And
There you
if
go.
so, how much? And of course, in most states, it's until they're 18. Child
Uh-huh.
support is for the benefit of children, food, clothing, and shelter. It
Right.
typically does not cover extracurricular, travel, uncovered medical. So you really have to be realistic about
Mhm.
what it covers. I was meeting a case yesterday where they were flabbergasted that child support does not cover private school. Well, not everyone can afford private school.
That's true.
So
That's true.
how would the court possibly mandate that a parent pay for private school when it's not?
Yeah. How is that possible? Because they're so high now.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want your child to go to private school, the parents have got to figure out a way above and beyond. Do you have the means? Is it in the best interest of the child? And are you both in agreement? Right. So those
Right.
are kind of the nuances with the child support. And then we get into the division of assets and debt. What do you own? What do you owe? Can we eliminate the debt and share the rest of the assets? Is it 50-50? Is it 51-49? Is it 90-10? If it's a community property state, naturally it is shared equally 50-50. But in an equitable division state, that's up for negotiation, right? And then lastly is spousal support, which
Mhm.
used to be called alimony or maintenance. I don't like the word maintenance, but that's not my word. And is your case a case for spousal support? Some are, some aren't. Discretion of a judge, length of marriage, need and ability to pay. So these are the realistic expectations that you have to have in your case. And then once you understand those two foundational bases of moving forward, can I
Right.
radically accept that they are who they are? And do I have realistic expectations of what likely would be the outcome? How do you learn that? Well, you study. You interview attorneys, you work with a divorce coach, you speak to mediators, you do your homework. But you understand those antagonistic tactics. Stay calm and unaffected. Narcissists thrive on your emotional reactions to everything. Don't let their provocations get under your skin.
There you go.
Easier said than done. It's like picking a scab knowing it's going to bleed.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
Staying calm and unaffected, not easy. Another reason you need a divorce coach. So you can be like, help, I need help. Like I usually have my clients have 2 pads of paper or they're copy and pasting what it is their spouse is texting them. And then I help them craft the appropriate response.
I love
So
that.
they're now taking the emotion out of it and they're able to respond from a calm and unaffected response that won't come back to bite them in court. And I,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Because like you'll see especially like on social media, like, oh my God.
Yeah, let's not talk about social media. That was a sarcastic comment, honey. I mean, no, 86% of divorce evidence comes from social media. So
I
be
believe
very
it.
careful.
Sure.
So you pretend that these tactics don't bother you.
There you
Now,
go.
acting unfazed
Right.
For their control attempts, you disrupt their strategy.
Exactly. Don't worry about what they're doing.
Right. And you can worry, but don't let them know you're worrying about
Don't
Have
let them know that you're worried. You're like
have a
being
coach.
apologetic and being affected. I
Mhm.
think that's huge.
And
That's
then
huge.
lastly with that is removing their emotional vulnerability.
Okay.
So they use your reaction to control you. Staying composed weakens their grip.
Sure does.
When you can stay calm, it's like they're slipping. You ever see that picture where somebody's hanging onto a cliff and they're going to fall?
Yeah.
Like their grip keeps loosening and they lose that emotional connection. You're removing their grasp of you.
There you go.
Silence and distancing are your powerful tools. Their goal is to diminish your confidence. So
Mm,
keep your independence strong. And how do you do that? In any way, shape, or form you can. You know yourself. What is it you need to stay calm? Is that a bubble bath? Is that a BFF? Is that a coach? Do you
yeah.
need to take a run, a hot shower, sip
Mm,
tea, drink coffee? Whatever you need to do to stay calm and remove that emotional vulnerability, you have to do it.
you have to do it is right. Like go for a walk in the park, take a yoga class. I'm having tea right now.
That was one of the reasons I studied yoga so hard for 10 years. It
Mm,
taught me the
I
tool
love yoga.
to stay emotionally. Yeah.
There you go. I want to talk about the journal because before we hopped on, so when do women buy the journals?
Well, the journal is sort of a companion to the book. So the book, Better Divorce Blueprint, is 308 pages.
Oh,
And it's
wow.
broken up into 8 chapters. As I mentioned, 1, 2, and 3 is prior to doing it. It's the thinking, the organizing, the planning, the understanding, all of that stressful. You only get one shot at this, as Eminem said, right? There's no dress rehearsal. So we have to make sure we dot our I's, cross our T's, and go into this feeling completely prepared. 4, 5, and 6 is during the kids, the people you need, the process. And then 7 and 8 is after. Do you change your name?
Mm,
Working, financial independence, new love is possible, goal setting, to name change or not to change. There's so many things to think about. But what I did was every time in the book I ask a question,
mm.
in the journal is a place for you to write it down and
Love that.
parallels it. So chapter 1, first question, you open the workbook, the question is right there. So you can't skip ahead. It's not a Danielle Steele novel.
There you go.
Gonna just logistically, this isn't, a sit down light read that you're gonna like, isn't that nice? I mean, there are parts of it that are storytelling and fun and, little,
Mm,
like lessons learned. But for the most
right.
part, fact driven, it's educational, educational, educational. Time I ask a question, instead of it writing it in the margin or dog tearing or folding it over or having you're not going to skip a question because each and every question is there. Now, the first 30 pages of the workbook also has to do with how to divorce a difficult, antagonistic, narcissistic spouse. So, how to protect yourself, embracing mediation over court, and all of those responses, meaning knowing what they do, the surprise scare attack, the passive aggressive grind attack, the angles of the attack, money threats, how to
Mm,
respond, family manipulation, how to respond,
right.
personal attacks and crisis attacks, and how to respond. And in response to all of those, giving you the exact copy and paste thing to say so that you know exactly how to respond. And there's these stages to disengage and repel a narcissist. So stop being the perfect supply, gradually weaning them off praise,
There you go.
becoming more trouble than you're worth, and being too painful for them to abuse. There are things you can do where they lose interest in you and they start to go for other supply. I like to call it the chocolate Easter egg bunny syndrome. So at Easter time, when we go to the store and you see all the cute little chocolate Easter egg bunnies all lined up, and they all look the same. They have the gold foil and the little ears and the tail, and they're purple and yellow and pink and green. You know the ones I mean, right?
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
So, how do you know the difference between a solid chocolate Easter egg bunny and a hollow one?
Mm,
Price. and picking it up. If you
Right.
have a solid one, it's going to be heavy and it's going to be 20, 30, $40, right? Depending on how big it is. And the hollow one's going to be light and it's going to be $1.99 or
Hmm.
$4.99, you know, if it's a little one or a big one. And you're going to say, well, but they look the same on the outside, don't they? You don't know which one you bought.
See?
Yeah. So these hollow Easter egg bunnies are hollow inside, and they get their self worth, accolades, and self valuation and identification from external sources because
Mhm.
they're not able to produce them on the inside from their own self worth. So they attract people and places and things and accoutrements and jobs and cars and labels so that they can feel whole and solid inside. They typically attract solid bunnies or half filled bunnies that make them feel more whole. So, what the person does that's the narcissistic supply is been taking the chocolate and filling it up in their hole in their ear until their gas gauge feels full. Unfortunately, these type of people have a hole in their tail and the
Mm,
chocolate seeps out. Gas gauge of full, half, empty. And
mm.
every time they get on half, they go to their little toolbox of what can I do to make them fill me up again?
Exactly.
The tactics they use, the
All those tactics, right?
right, all the, you know, the stonewalling, the triangulation, the mirroring, the future faking, all the little tactics they do to suck you back in called hoovering, right?
Mhm.
Why? Because it hurts them so bad that they feel hollow inside.
Sure, sure it does.
So,
They just want control. They want to control you again.
well, they want you to keep making them feel full. And
Ah.
the reason they wanna control you is because you've stopped doing what it is that made them happy, which was praising them, making them feel wonderful, keeping the house clean and making money and taking care of the job and the kids and the this and, you know, telling them what a wonderful, handsome, fabulous
Mm.
person they are. And all of a sudden you're like, "Listen, dude, fill yourself up. I'm busy." And they get mad. So it's very it's alerting, but it's also very empowering when you understand about this hollow Easter egg bunny theory. I don't know if I invented it or not. I just know that this is what I see in my clients when they say, well, he keeps this and he wants this and it's a, and they feel so hollow inside.
Mm.
And I was in the store one day and just saw the solid bunny and the hollow bunny. And I said, but they look the same. You just
Right.
don't know. But there are many steps that you can take to manage and disarm them. It takes time and
Sure.
expertise, but those are the best places to start. Start with the 3 E's. Do they have a lack of empathy?
Mm.
They display a sense of entitlement. The rules don't apply to them. I know when everyone else gets divorced, there's discovery, but not when I do. And is there a sense of exploitation in the system? Are they going to use the
Very
entire system to get back at you? And that's how you know. And if you don't know, now that you understand, keep your eyes
mm.
open.
We are coming up to the top of the hour, and this is a great conversation. Talk about real and raw. Wow. This is a real and raw
Lot to know.
conversation.
I know. Yeah, but I want everyone to
There's so
make
much
sure
stuff.
you get something really good and juicy from this conversation.
Yes, and make sure that you document because documenting is so critical. So,
But not just documenting, make sure there's a pattern and that it's
mm,
chronological.
right, exactly. So, if a woman listening today is stuck, scared, and unsure how to leave a high conflict or emotionally abusive marriage, what is the one message she needs to hear from you right now, today?
You're stronger than you think. If I can do it, anyone can, right? I was terrified. That's why I stayed so long. And again, you know, the levels of, if you feel controlled, if you feel minimized and made to kind of feel like you had to fit in a box, you don't have a voice, you can't ask questions, you're always running around codependent, you're communicating indirectly because you're afraid of what might happen if you're walking on eggshells. No,
Why?
of those things. How is it that you feel? And know that you are stronger than you think. You really, truly are. And when you allow the power of grace to work its magic, it's really empowering. When you release your desire for the outcome, all of a sudden you allow this grace to work its magic. You have to set yourself up for success. You have to do your homework. But I'm happy to speak to anyone who feels like they need support, guidance, education. All you have to do is go to betterdivorceacademy.com, go to the contact. You'll see my email there, and you can always book a complimentary 15 minutes. If you want an assessment, it's 30 minutes, and I charge a flat rate of $75 for that. That's not a real consultation. It's just going to give you an assessment of where you are and what your next step is. And then if you want a full 90-minute consultation, like a deep dive, dissecting your case of, is this a case for mediation?
Right.
Is it really headed for litigation? And you want the full 90 minutes, $300, no commitment.
Good. So a full 90-minute consultation will be $300.
That $300 for a full 90-minute deep dive consultation. I will ask you probably 30 or 40 questions. And from that, obviously, sacred space, very confidential and private, virtual. Or if you live in Georgia, happy to have you come sit in my chair. And if not, we give virtual hugs. And you are going to leave this meeting with an exact plan on what to do.
And that's important for women, especially women who are going through an abusive marriage. It's important place because
one last bit of golden little nugget here. What you have to remember is that, ladies, you have to frame the conversation so that they feel that they will benefit more than you will benefit. If they believe that they will be harmed more than you will be harmed, they will say, see you in court. If they believe that they will benefit from the divorce, from private mediation, and how do you do that? I've done some research. I found a private credentialed ADR mediator that can help us avoid court.
That's good.
All the unnecessary legal fees, keep their private life private, or swiftly, quickly, I can't say immediately, with less trauma for us. Would that be something you would consider doing? I've never had a person say their husband's.
Right.
So if you can start to frame the conversation in that way, again, remember, they have to believe that it will benefit them.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much.
Welcome. And I'm so proud of you for this venture and helping so many women have that unapologetic voice I wish more and more women had. I wish I'd had it way back when, but live and learn. And now I'm here to help support others as you are too.
Good. Thank you so much, Paulette, for providing so much insight and for providing so much valuable information, on what the divorce process. You painted a clear picture of exactly what it looks like.
It's not easy, but it's all in the book, Better Divorce Blueprint. You can get it on Amazon. And if not, reach out to the website. I'm here and I'm happy to help. It is my life's mission to make the experience more pleasant.
That's good. That's good. Instead of traumatic. Absolutely. Absolutely. Alrighty, everyone. Thank you so much for watching this full episode. It will be on my YouTube channel at Her Unapologetic Voice. Also, please follow us on Spotify at Her Unapologetic Voice and on Instagram. So, Paulette, please stay in the green room for a few minutes. Have a great rest of your day. See you soon. Hey, everyone. I'm Angeline Constantinou, and this is Her Unapologetic Voice. This podcast was created for women who lead but are done leading from apology. Here we have real, unfiltered conversations about boundaries, truth, and confidence. The kind of talks that remind you your voice is not something you find once, it's something you build. Every episode will give you something real to take with you, whether it's a boundary script, a reflection tool, or simply the courage to say what you really mean. So if you're ready to lead from your truth, not from approval, this is your space. Your unapologetic voice starts here.